Last spring, I sat across from a couple who had just listed their home in Alpharetta after barely 16 months. They had relocated from California with so much excitement about their new life in Atlanta. But they told me they felt completely blindsided. Not by one big thing, but by a series of realities that nobody had prepared them for before they moved. The truth is, Atlanta is a genuinely incredible place to live for the right people with the right expectations. I'm Tim Trevathan, and I have been living and working in North Metro Atlanta for years, and I chose this place because I love it here, and I am raising a family here as well. But I also believe in honest conversation. So today I'm sharing 12 facts that every potential relocator needs to know before making this move. We are going to cover the hidden costs that add up faster than you expect, the lifestyle adjustments that catch even well-prepared families off guard, and the single biggest factor that determines whether you thrive here or end up back on the market 18 months later. Atlanta sells itself well, and honestly, the pitch is not wrong. The city is home to more Fortune 500 companies than almost anywhere else in America. The weather is mild for most of the year. The cost of living is dramatically lower than New York, Los Angeles, or San Francisco. The suburbs are safe. The schools in the right zip codes are excellent. And the food scene has exploded in the last decade. When people visit Atlanta for a long weekend or scroll through listings on their phone, they see all of that, and it is real. But here's what a weekend visit or a Zillow search will never show you: the daily realities that hit once you sign the closing document and actually start living here. And no, I'm not making this video to talk you out of moving to Atlanta. Genuinely, I want you to move here, but I want you to move here prepared, with your eyes open and your budget right, so that you thrive instead of spending the next year wondering what went wrong. So let's get into it. 12 facts, starting with the one that sounds the least serious. Fact number 12, the pollen problem is not what you expect. Let's start with the one that sounds manageable until it ruins your first spring and your second and possibly your third. Atlanta has a pollen problem unlike anything most people relocating here have ever experienced. On March 29th, 2025, Atlanta Allergy and Asthma recorded a pollen count of 14,801. That is not a typo. That was the highest pollen count ever recorded locally, nearly double the previous record of 9,368 set back in 2012. And here's the one thing that really surprises newcomers. It is not just one season. Tree pollen, grass pollen, and weed pollen seasons overlap here, creating a continuous 9-month allergy cycle. The Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America ranked Atlanta among the 40 worst cities in America for allergies in 2025. The financial hit is real too. If you have never needed allergy medication, you may find yourself budgeting for regular prescriptions, specialist visits, or air purification systems for your home. It is not enormous, but it is an ongoing cost that catches people off guard. So what can you do? Before you move, visit Atlanta in April. Walk around outside, see how your body responds. And if you or your kids have any existing sensitivities, have a conversation with an allergist before you commit to the move, and budget for a good HEPA air system in your new home. It makes a meaningful difference. But you know, that is not the biggest surprise waiting for you when you arrive. Fact number 11, the ITP versus OTP divide will determine your entire life here. Here's what really catches people off guard, and it is something no real estate listing will ever mention. Atlanta locals divide the entire metro into two worlds, split by Interstate 285, the highway that loops around the city. If you live inside the loop, you are ITP, also known as inside the perimeter. If you live outside it, you are OTP, which is outside the perimeter. And these are not just geographic categories. They represent completely different lifestyles, price points, commute realities, and cultural identities. ITP means walkable neighborhoods, MARTA rail access, smaller homes on smaller lots, and proximity to the city's restaurants, art scene, and nightlife. It also means higher price per square foot, less parking, and depending on the specific neighborhood, a very different feel from what most out-of-state buyers expect when they picture suburban Atlanta. OTP, which is where most of my work is focused on, covering Gwinnett County, North Fulton, and South Forsyth, for example, means larger homes, bigger backyards, newer construction, and some of Georgia's best school districts. But it also means you are in your car every single day. And that commute can range from manageable to brutal, depending on exactly where you buy and where you work. So here's a surprise that costs newcomers real money. Many OTP areas have evolved evolved significantly in the last 5 years. Communities like Alpharetta, Johns Creek, and Suwanee now have walkable town centers, restaurants, and entertainment within the suburb itself. You do not necessarily need to fight I-285 to get to what you want. But there is one OTP cost that catches people from other states completely flat-footed: Georgia's annual vehicle invalorem tax. When you register your car in Georgia, you pay a tax based on the value of your vehicle every single year. I remember when I moved from Alabama to Georgia for the first time and I had to pay this tax, I was shocked. It was a huge fee that I had never seen myself have to incur. If you are moving from a state without this tax, it is a line item in your budget that simply does not exist today. Budget for it before you arrive. The bottom line, understanding which side of I-285 fits your daily life is the first decision you need to make before you even start looking at homes. So now, this is one in particular tough for families moving here from California, the Pacific Northwest, or the Northeast, I would say. So keep that in mind. Fact number 10, the summer heat is not what you picture. When most people think of Atlanta's climate, they picture mild southern weather. 4 seasons, comfortable springs, warm but manageable summers. That picture is incomplete. The average heat index in July in Atlanta is estimated at 107.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not the temperature, that is what it feels like on your skin when you factor in humidity. Atlanta has approximately 31 days per summer where the temperature alone exceeds 90 degrees and the humidity multiplies every one of those days. And according to Redfin's climate risk data, 99% of properties in Atlanta currently carry a major heat factor rating over the next 30 years. The city is expected to see 157% increase in the number of days exceeding 104 degrees over the coming 3 decades, and Atlanta now experiences nearly 2 weeks more extreme heat days per year than it did in 1970. So what does this mean for your wallet? Summer electric bills for a typical single-family home commonly run $150 to $250 per month when the air conditioning is working at full capacity from June through September. What does it mean for your daily life? Your outdoor plans from roughly mid-June through early September need to happen early in the morning or after sunset. Visit Atlanta in August before you commit. Spend 3 or 4 days there in the actual summer. Your experience of the city changes completely and you need to know what you are signing up for before you move. Speaking of unexpected costs, this next one is the sneaky monthly bill most relocators completely miss. Fact number 9, the real monthly cost of ownership goes well beyond your mortgage. When relocators run their numbers before moving to Atlanta, they usually look at the mortgage payment and call it done. That is a mistake that hits hard about 3 months after closing. Here's what is actually coming out of your pocket every month. In Metro Atlanta, 53% of homes currently on the market include HOA fees. That number has been rising steadily. The median monthly HOA fee in 2025 is $135, up from $108 in 2019. But in many North Metro communities, particularly in newer construction neighborhoods in Alpharetta, Johns Creek, South Forsyth, and Suwanee, those fees can stretch well past $500 per month. These are not small line items. On top of that, Atlanta's average monthly utility costs run approximately $251.56, among the highest of any Georgia city, driven largely by sewer costs. And as we just covered in Fact 10, your summer electric bill alone can add $150 to $250 per month during peak months. Then there is Georgia's annual vehicle invalorem tax, which I mentioned in the ITP versus OTP section. If you're moving here from a state where this does not exist, you need to look up the current value of every vehicle you own and budget accordingly. It is not a one-time fee at purchase. It comes around every single year at registration. So the fix is simple. Before you fall in love with any specific home, get the full picture. Ask for the HOA fee schedule and the reserve fund status. Request the last 12 months of utility bills from the seller. Look up the Georgia vehicle tax for your cars online before you move. None of these are hard to find, but most people do not ask until after closing. That said, every buyer is different, and when you relocate from out of state, you have a completely different set of requirements to a local buyer. So if you want to understand which neighborhood in Atlanta would be the best fit for your budget and your goals, you can download my Atlanta relocation guide for free in the description below. So now, on to the next one. Fact 8, car insurance in Georgia will shock you. What really changed the game for most people I work with is the insurance bill they get shortly after moving here. Georgia is the 9th most expensive state in America for car insurance, but that statewide figure is actually understating the problem for Atlanta residents specifically. Drivers in Atlanta pay $187 per month for full coverage, and that is 39% above the Georgia state average. Why? A few reasons that have nothing to do with your personal driving record. Georgia has one of the highest uninsured motorist rates in the country at approximately 25%. The national average is 13%. Every insured driver in Georgia absorbs some of that risk in their premium. Georgia also has the second highest insurance fraud rate in the country, something the Georgia Insurance Commissioner has publicly flagged as a primary cost driver. The result is that a family moving here from, say, Colorado or Oregon with 2 cars can easily see their combined car insurance costs jump $200 to $400 per month compared to what they were paying before the move. So what should you do? Get insurance quotes for Atlanta specifically, not just Georgia broadly, before your moving date. Contact your current insurer and ask for a Georgia quote with your exact address. You need to see that number before you finalize your budget, not after. In fact, in the description, I have a great insurance agent that I've been working with for many years. He's also a client and good friend of mine. So if you do want a quick quote, you can go down to the description right now and check it out. Now, this one is particularly tough for families, especially those moving here from cities with more consistent public school quality across the metro. Fact 7, the school district lottery is real. One of the most common mistakes I see relocating families make is assuming that because Atlanta has great schools, the schools near the home they like are great schools as well. That assumption can cost you enormously. The gap between the best and the worst school districts in this metro is staggering. Beaufort City Schools has ranked #1 in Georgia for 10 consecutive years. Forsyth County Schools and Gwinnett County's elite programs sit near the top of the state rankings. On the other end, Atlanta public schools citywide had just 37% of students testing proficient in reading as of 2022. Those two realities exist within miles of each other, and the homes in the top performing districts reflect it. School district boundaries are one of the primary drivers of price premiums in North Metro Atlanta. So a home just inside the right school district boundary can trade $100,000 or more above a comparable home just outside that line. Here's another layer that surprises relocating families. Gwinnett County is the largest school system in Georgia, and within that one county, there is enormous variation. The Gwinnett School of Mathematics, Science, and Technology has been rated one of the top 3 high schools in America multiple times, but that is one school in one county. The average campus in any large district is not that campus, and Fulton County contains 2 entirely separate school systems, Fulton County Schools and Atlanta Public Schools, with dramatically different academic outcomes. Many families research Fulton County Schools without realizing those 2 systems are not the same thing. Before you look at a single listing, research the specific Great Schools rating for the exact school attendance zone for that address. Not the county, not the district broadly, the specific school, and verify where school district boundaries fall before you make an offer. Boundaries shift, and a subdivision that was in one district 5 years ago may not be today. This next one affects your daily life more than you would think, and I see it because significant buyer's remorse. Fact number 6, all Atlanta suburbs are not created equal. So here's where things get really important for your decision. When people research Atlanta suburbs from out of state, they tend to see a list of names, Alpharetta, Johns Creek, Suwanee, Duluth, Cumming, and so on, and assume they are essentially interchangeable. They are not even close. Forsyth County, for example, has a median home price of approximately $600,000. That is significantly above the broader Metro Atlanta median of $400,000. South Forsyth homes near the Johns Creek and Alpharetta border commonly trade well above $700,000. North Fulton communities like Alpharetta and Johns Creek are anchoring strong demand specifically because of tech and healthcare job growth. Companies like NCR, Microsoft, and Northside Hospital create a concentration of high-income employment that sustains premium prices in those zip codes. Suwanee and Sugar Hill in Gwinnett County offer strong value relative to North Fulton, but come with different commute dynamics and a different feel on the ground. And the cost of choosing the wrong suburb without understanding these differences before you buy is enormous. So in just 3 years, the average price of a single family home in Metro Atlanta increased by more than 40%. Transaction costs alone on a $600,000 home run $15,000 to $25,000 to exit and re-enter the market. So if you choose the wrong suburb and need to move 18 months later, that is a very real expensive lesson. So the antidote to this mistake is simple but requires time. Visit multiple suburbs on the same trip. Do not just see one neighborhood and decide. Spend a morning, say in Johns Creek, and an afternoon in Suwanee, and an evening in Alpharetta. They feel different and they serve different priorities. And the right one for your family depends entirely on your specific combination of budget, commute needs, school priorities, and lifestyle preferences. So here's where things get really challenging, particularly if you're moving from a state where property taxes are consistent across the entire metro. Fact number 5, property taxes vary dramatically across the North Metro. Georgia gets a reputation as a low property tax state, and at a statewide level, that is accurate. The average Georgia property tax bill is approximately $2,050 per year, nearly 40% below the US average of $3,300. But here's what that statewide number hides. The 3 North Metro counties where most of my buyers end up in, Fulton, Forsyth, and Gwinnett, are the 3 highest bill counties in the entire state. Fulton County homeowners pay an average of $3,847 annually. Forsyth County homeowners pay $3,747, and Gwinnett County homeowners pay $3,381. These are the statewide leaders in absolute dollar terms, driven by the higher income values in those counties. Within those counties, the variation goes further. Gwinnett County property owners pay a millage rate of 14.71 mills. Cherokee County sits at 8.31 mills. Forsyth County held its millage rate at just 7.896 mills for the 5th consecutive year in 2025, one of the lowest in the region. But homes inside the city of Cumming pay city taxes on top of county and school taxes, while homes in unincorporated Forsyth do not. There's a meaningful upside for Forsyth County buyers starting in 2026. The floating homestead exemption, which took effect under HB 717, caps annual property assessment increases at 4% per year. In a market where values have risen 40% over 3 years, that protection is genuinely valuable. So before you make an offer on any home, look up the specific tax bill for that address, not the county average. County assessor websites have parcel level search tools that give you the exact figure. Use them to your advantage. Now, I appreciate this video is all about the challenges of moving to Atlanta. But if you are considering relocating in the next few months and you want advice from somebody that has been living and working in Atlanta for many years, then drop me a text or give me a call at 770-906-0748. And based on your budget and your preferences, we can work out the best neighborhoods for your budget. So now on to our final facts. So fact 4, the housing market is not the bargain you expect. But the most serious issue I see families face is the gap between what they budgeted for and what the North Metro Atlanta market actually costs right now. Here's the data. The Metro Atlanta median sales price was $400,000 in February 2026, up 2.2% year over year. The average sales price was $485,688. Those are Metro-wide figures, and they already exceed what many relocators expect when they hear affordable Atlanta compared to coastal markets. But the North Metro suburbs, with the schools, the safety profile, and the community infrastructure that most relocating families are actually targeting, places like Johns Creek, Alpharetta, and South Forsyth consistently trade $150,000 to $300,000 above that metro median. So you're not shopping in the average, you're shopping at the top of it, and the market has shifted in ways that favor buyers in some respects, but create real uncertainty in others. So active listings in Atlanta climbed to more than 30,000 homes in early 2026, and the highest inventory level since 2019. So about 50% of Forsyth County listings has seen price reductions recently. The market is not as frantic as it was at peak, but prices in desirable North Metro corridors have been remarkably resilient. So here's the honest conversation that I have with every relocating buyer. A WABE analysis published in early 2026 showed it is now cheaper to rent than to buy in the Atlanta area by some measures, driven by rising home prices, elevated mortgage rates, and higher property taxes. Now, having said that, that does not mean buying is wrong. It means going in with a clear long-term plan matters more now than it did 3 years ago. If you're coming from New York, the #1 source of buyers shopping in Atlanta right now, according to Redfin, or from Los Angeles, you're still getting significantly more home for your money. But the days of Atlanta being a deeply undervalued market are over. Budget for North Metro reality, not Metro-wide brochure math. But that is not the biggest surprise, and this one changes your entire daily routine here. Fact 3, the traffic is worse than anything you have heard. And I know every big city says its traffic is bad. Atlanta is genuinely in a different category. Seriously. The INRIX 2025 Global Traffic Score ranked Atlanta as the 16th worst city in the entire world for traffic and the 7th worst in the United States. Personally, sometimes I feel like we're number 1. Atlanta drivers lost an average of 75 hours to traffic in 2025. That is a 15% increase from the year before. The estimated cost per driver was $1,381 per year just sitting in traffic, not going anywhere productive. 9 Georgia locations appear on ATRI's list of the 100 worst traffic bottlenecks in America. 8 of them are in Atlanta, and the 2 worst are I-285 and I-85 North, ranked 4th nationally, and I-20 and I-285 West, ranked 5th nationally. These are not exaggerations. These are documented rankings from independent national studies. Morning rush hour peaks between 6:30 and 9:30 a.m. Evening rush hour runs from 4 to 7 p.m. And these rush hours are expanding even more. And in Atlanta, that evening window is often worse than the morning. Atlanta runs almost entirely on cars. For most North Metro residents, there is no realistic public transit alternative for your daily commute. So what does this mean for your suburb selection decision? It means you need to drive your actual commute route at actual rush hour before you commit to any home. The reality that hits hardest though is how much the crime picture varies depending on exactly which suburb you choose. So that leads us to fact 2, crime in Atlanta depends entirely on where you live. This is the one where I need you to pay close attention because the data people most often see is not the data that applies to the neighborhoods you are most likely to be considering. Atlanta's city level crime statistics are serious. The total crime rate for the city of Atlanta is 4,599.8 per 100,000 people. That's 117% higher than the national rate. Your statistical chance of being a victim of violent crime in Atlanta is 1 in 141 annually compared to 1 in 307 statewide. But here's the critical distinction. Those numbers describe the city of Atlanta. They do not describe, say, Johns Creek or Milton or Alpharetta, Swanee or Roswell, or the communities in North Metro Gwinnett County where most of my buyers end up. Johns Creek is consistently rated as one of Georgia's safest cities, with violent crime rates far below the state average. Milton offers a similar profile. So there's also a meaningful direction of travel in the data. Atlanta Police Department mid-year 2025 statistics showed an 18% overall decline in crime citywide, with homicides down 16%, property crimes down 22%, and auto theft down 43%. That is a genuinely significant improvement. However, robberies citywide were up 36% and aggravated assaults were up 20% during the same period. So the picture is mixed and not yet resolved. What this means for your search is straightforward. Do not research crime at the metro level. Research crime at the specific suburb level and then at the specific neighborhood level within that suburb. The contrast between the city core and the North Metro suburbs is dramatic enough that using metro-wide statistics to make a housing decision is essentially meaningless. For any address you are seriously considering, pull the crimegrade.org report and the local police department's crime map for that zip code. Visit the neighborhood at different times of day and different days of the week. The data tells part of the story. Your eyes, they tell the rest. The fact that causes the most regret in my experience is also the simplest to avoid. If someone tells you the truth before you move. Fact number 1, the suburb you pick changes everything. The single biggest source of regret I see among Atlanta relocators, the one that leads to families going back on the market 12 to 18 months after moving in, is choosing the wrong suburb without understanding how dramatically different the North Metro Atlanta areas are from each other. Metro Atlanta recently experienced its first net domestic outmigration in over 30 years, a reversal that researchers at the Atlanta Real Estate Forum attribute largely to escalating prices, severe congestion, and the difficulty of finding the right suburb without expert guidance. Here's what most relocators do not understand. Gwinnett County, North Fulton County, and South Forsyth County are not interchangeable. They have different school school systems with dramatically different academic outcomes. They have different commute patterns to different employer clusters. They have different price trajectories and different inventory dynamics altogether. They have a different community infrastructure, which matters enormously if you're looking for cultural anchors, specific grocery options, community organizations, or faith communities. And they have different feels on the ground that no amount of online research can truly convey. Forsyth County recently extended a residential development moratorium through June 2026, specifically to manage the pace of high-density growth. That tells you something important about where demand is concentrated and where infrastructure is being tested. So quality of life in Atlanta depends heavily on where you live. That is not a cliche. It is the most honest thing I can tell you after many years of helping people navigate this market. So if you're serious about this move, don't pick a suburb based on one visit or one YouTube video. Talk to someone who lives and works across multiple North Metro counties, who understands the differences between them, and who will give you an honest answer instead of directing you to whatever listings happen to be available this week. That is the only fact on this list that can save you from all the others. So the bottom line is this: Atlanta is not for everyone, and that's completely fine. But if you think it might be right for you, the only way to find out is to go in with your eyes open about the traffic, the heat, the school district complexity, and the real cost of ownership in the suburbs that actually deliver what you're looking for. Do your homework, ask the hard questions, and if you want a straight answer from someone who has been navigating this market for many years, my number is in the description, so give me a call.